What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another video. So as you guys probably know, having good mechanics in Fortnite is absolutely critical. If you can build and edit your way around somebody and they're not able to do it to the same extent, then you're going to put yourself at such a huge advantage in most of your fights. However, getting really good mechanics is something a lot of people struggle with nowadays. And that's why in today's video, I'll be showing you exactly how to do just that. I'll be showing you how to improve your mechanics dramatically in Fortnite Chapter 4 Season 4. We'll be going over a bunch of different maps and general practice methods that'll help you an absolute ton. And by the end of this video, if you follow all these tips, you should see some giant improvements. Before we get into it, be sure to drop a like on the video if it helps you out, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want to see more, and of course, it's always super appreciated if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. As always, guys, a huge thank you to everyone who uses my code. It seriously does help me out a ton. And with all that said, and without further ado, let's get into today's video. So starting off this video, and the first topic I want to talk about when it comes to your mechanics is your piece control. One of the most important areas of your mechanics is piece control, which is basically just the ability to use your builds and edits to surround your opponent, block them off, or otherwise just get them into a bad situation where you can easily secure the kill. Even though it's been around for a while, piece control is one of the biggest skill gaps in Fortnite, and getting really good at it is going to help you not only become better at building and editing overall, but the techniques you learn can help you win a ton of fights. There are a lot of piece control maps out there, but I'm going to show you guys two of them in this video, and the first one I want to talk about is Raiders Piece Control Map V3. I'll go ahead and put the code up on screen right now for you guys. This map has a huge variety. It has over 25 different scenarios ranging from beginner to advanced, and these basically teach you various piece control techniques, and it also has piece control tunnels where you can practice the mechanics of building and editing in a piece control fashion through the tunnels. As you can see on screen, there are tons of different scenarios and they should be extremely helpful. Overall, Raiders Piece Control Map is super helpful, so I definitely recommend you give that a shot. And another great map to add on here is going to be Titos Realistic Edit and Piece Control Map V4. That one's a mouthful. This one is less popular, but it's actually a fantastic map for piece control. Not only does it have a lot of really useful piece control scenarios, but it also has a beginner and advanced realistic editing section, which are basically scenarios that help you improve your editing within piece control type scenarios. This helps an absolute ton with getting your edits faster and more consistent. And the actual piece control scenarios the map has are also really helpful. There's a really good variety of them, and some of them are different from Raiders. So if you use these two maps in conjunction with one another, you should see some big improvements and they should help a lot. I'll go ahead and put up the code to Titos Map as well on screen right now. Moving on from that though, and another map I really want to show you guys in this video is going to be Raiders Mechanics Map V3. I'm sure if you guys have watched my videos before, you've probably heard about this map before because it is one of the best maps in the game right now. This map has an absolute ton of scenarios to improve your mechanics. There's a lot of useful areas here, but I'm going to go over some of the most useful ones. Starting off, the first section we have is Edit Crosshair Training. Edit Crosshair Training is basically a section where you're moved around and you're meant to improve your crosshair placement when you edit. Crosshair placement is super underrated because what it actually does is it makes you able to edit way faster. It essentially makes it so you don't have to move your mouse or your cursor as far, and you'd be very surprised by how much this can actually help. So definitely give that a shot. The next section is going to be very reminiscent of Raiders Piece Control Map because it does have a lot of the same scenarios, but this one is actually Piece Control X Peak Training. What this essentially means is that you're going up against a bot like you normally would in a piece control scenario, but instead of just going and editing on it and shooting it, you're actually going to be shot if you peek for too long. So what you want to do is you want to make an optimal edit, peek for the shortest amount of time possible and get the shot off. Essentially, you want to treat this bot as if it's a normal person that can shoot back at you, because essentially that's what it's meant to be. If you get shot, then that means you peeked for too long, and if you don't get shot, then that means you went for a good edit. And this really helps you to be able to piece control safely and effectively in real games, and this should be very helpful for you guys. Moving on from that though, and we've got box fight training. This one is fairly self-explanatory. It's basically a bunch of bots that are running around on the bottom floor, and you're meant to treat it as if it's a regular box fight, improve your box fighting mechanics. Essentially, you're meant to piece control them and treat them as if they're real players. This really helps you to just get some of your box fighting techniques down and even apply some of the piece control techniques we've already talked about. After that, we've got two different free build sections. The first one is the AI bot free build. The AI bot free build is a similar concept to the box fight training, where you're basically building on these bots and you're supposed to piece control them. It basically helps you go from building up into piece controlling somebody, and it helps you apply it in more real situations and combine it with other techniques. And the other free build section is literally just a regular free build section. However, there is one really cool feature here, which is the customized speed. What you can do is you can make your speed higher or lower depending on your preference, and you can practice that way. And what this does, if you make it lower, it's going to help you get really precise and make sure you're doing all your movements properly. And then eventually you can make your speed faster, which helps you to get, faster mechanics, as you'd expect. Overall, going both slower and faster in different situations is going to help you a lot, so I definitely recommend you give that a shot. And the last section here is piece control tunnels. The original Raiders piece control map actually does have these piece control tunnels as well, but these have some different ones in them. Essentially, piece control tunnels, as I talked about before, are just tunnels where you basically build and edit through them as if you're doing piece control techniques. There's really not too much else to say about them because I have talked about them before. But with all that said, guys, that's a basic rundown of Raiders Mechanics Map V3. I know that was a lot of stuff, but I basically just went over the whole map for you guys. Overall, Raiders Titos Map has something for basically every area of your mechanics. So if you're trying to get crazy mechanics, you definitely don't want to leave this one out. I'll go ahead and put up the code on screen right now for you guys. Moving on from that though, now that we've gone over a lot of ways to improve your piece control and your general mechanics, the last part I want to talk about in today's video is going to be fighting practice. One critical factor when it comes to improving your mechanics fast and being able to win fights is going to be to practice fighting against really good players. This is one of the best ways to basically just bring everything together that you've learned and really bring those skills you've learned into real situations. When you're doing any sort of fighting practice, the first thing I want to say is that you want to focus on playing against people around or above your skill level. You want to make sure that your fighting practice is an actual challenge and it pushes you to improve, rather than just going against somebody you can beat over and over again and you're really not learning anything or improving. Starting off, and I want to talk about build fights. Now, build fights are a bit of a controversial one within the Fortnite community, but I personally find them to be one of the best ways to improve at fighting. What they do is they don't put you into a realistic fight. They basically give you infinite materials and ideal weapons, and you're basically cranking up to height limit against your opponent trying to fight them. What this does do though is it helps you to improve your building and editing, helps you improve your retakes, and really just puts you in a lot of different situations where you have to go for different mechanical moves and mix things up. So although it's not technically a realistic way to fight, it's definitely one of the best ways to practice, I think. The map that I recommend for this is Raider 464's 1v1 build fight map. I'll go ahead and put the code up on screen for it right now. This map has customized HP, so if you want to go for like clips or something like that, you can lower it. That way you can one pump somebody. Or if you just want to play normally like a regular fight, then you can go ahead and do that. But overall, this build fight map is fantastic. Another great way to practice fighting is realistic 1v1s. Realistic 1v1s are essentially just a 1v1 that's meant to simulate a mid-game fight in-game. What this does is it puts you up against another player with realistic loot, realistic materials, and realistic HP, and you're basically meant to just treat it like a regular fight. If you do this against some really good players, this can definitely help you to essentially just simulate what a regular fight would look like in-game. It's essentially a more efficient version of practicing fighting in an actual game. Of course, there is the advantage of just being in creative, having no pressure on you or anything like that, but it definitely helps you to improve your mechanics a whole lot, and I'll go ahead and put up the code on screen right now to it. Getting into our third fighting practice map though, and this is going to be our last practice map for this video, and this one is Speed Box Fights by Ken Beans. If you've been watching my video, you've probably seen me talk about Ken Beans maps before. A couple months ago, he started releasing maps, and he has just dropped banger after banger since then. Huge shout out to Ken Beans. He's dropping some amazing stuff. Definitely check him out if you don't know him already. And this particular map is essentially a speed box fight. So what it does is it sends you up to your opponent or sends your opponent up to you. So one of you is pushing, one of you is playing defensive, and you're in a confined space and you're meant to basically box fight one another in a realistic environment. It's basically meant to be a close range realistic 1v1. Think of it as like a realistic 1v1, except you're in closer range, so you're meant to focus more on your peaks, your piece control, and stuff like that, rather than the type of playstyle you would play in a build fight, which is obviously going to be much different. The speed box fight map is another amazing map, and I definitely recommend you give this one a shot. I'll put the code up on screen to it right now. Now, one thing I want to add for all three of the maps that we just talked about, all those do have a matchmaking feature. So what you can do is you can either go in with a friend if you have one, preferably a friend who's at or above your skill level, or if you don't have anybody that would match that description, then you can simply set your lobby to public, load into the map, and you should be put against a random player. Most of these maps have a pretty decent amount of players, so it shouldn't be too hard to find someone. And overall, however you decide to do it, all of these maps are going to be really helpful for you guys and help you improve in different situations. So definitely give those fighting maps a shot, because those are some fantastic ways to improve your mechanics. And the last thing I want to mention, guys, for fighting practice is just going to be regular games. Now, these fighting maps are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but you also don't want to neglect the actual game. Playing ranked games or even public matches sometimes can be another great way to improve your fighting. In fact, it's probably one of the best ways, because it's super realistic. It's literally the regular game. You're up against players that are generally around your skill level if you're playing ranked, and overall you really just don't want to neglect it, because it is the most realistic way to practice. So definitely use these other fighting maps as a supplement, but keep in mind that's just what they are. They're a supplement, and the primary game should still be the bulk of your fighting practice. But with all that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on how to get insane mechanics in Fortnite Chapter 4 Season 4. Overall, by following all the tips and using all the maps in this video, you should see some giant improvements in your mechanics. If you found this video helpful, then be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel and you want to see more, and as always, it's super appreciated if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's completely free for you. It only takes like 5 seconds to type in, and it seriously does help me out a bunch. As always, a giant thank you to everyone who uses it. But with all that said, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.